The following video has been created without the use of AI. Please support your human content creators by liking the video and commenting something down below. Subscribing is optional. Now please, enjoy the show. Some toys had it better than others. When the hour of joy happened, and sometime after, beneath the wrathful gaze of the prototype, children and some adults were turned into bigger bodies. Still. But what was probably the worst thing to happen to some of the unfortunate people was the lack of proper guidance post-operation. You are one of these. Your creation was interrupted by the hour of joy itself, and your awakening, as rude as it could be in your new toy body, had been as difficult as it could be. The new plastic exoskeleton, the mental strain with everything going wrong. It wasn't even the complete eradication of your memories and former life that broke you. It was the hunger. Starving, bleeding from wounds caused by your body partially rejecting the changes. You became a monster in the shape of a Cynthia Deluxe doll. The deluxe dolls were luxury dolls utilizing actual hair from the children who ordered them, as well as expensive designer outfits. They were more of a collector's item really than a toy. The intention behind you was marketing, but of course that had fallen apart before it even really began. You weren't naked and afraid for long though, as your path through the factory was paved in blood, bones, and viscera. Picking your fights carefully, you became an ambush predator. Even in the early stages post-Hour of Joy, you were among the toys not loyal to anyone. For it was eat or be eaten. You were a thorn in the side of the prototype, or at least until Poppy's rebellion began in full, and he could use you and other bigger bodies to his advantage. Sure, you were a chaos factor, but essentially anything that crossed your path, you first saw as food, and then as an equal second. And it remained like this for a very long time. At least until he forgot about you. But that only led to your evolution. Hunger drove you to improvise, adapt, and overcome. Dressed in the hide of multiple slain, smiling creatures, sewn together by primitive bone tools, equipped with a spear forged from office equipment. You had set traps, slept only for very short periods, and you relished every second of it. While starting out feral, your human ingenuity had somehow managed to return. And you became more dangerous than ever before. You lived at the halls below Playcare, beyond any chance of escape due to the red gas that would mean certain doom to you. You stayed away from the automatons from the doctor, knowing metal was not edible. Hiding in one of the lesser accessible cells where you set up a small camp. The doctor was aware of your existence, but paid you no mind. The loss of life that came from your existence was negligible, and you never interfered with operations. Until now. It all changed when you and Yarnaby encountered each other. A chance encounter. If anything, Dr. Sawyer was surprised this didn't happen sooner.
Well, that's the problem with third parties, Yarnaby. You never know how dumb they truly are,
commented the doctor over the speakers. Spear in hand, you stood before the rainbow lion, his massive head twitched, salvia dropping from his vertical mouth.
Very well, Yarnaby. Get rid of this interloper once and for all. She must not interfere with our experiments.
The beast roared. You of course understood the meaning of the words, while their exact understanding eluded you. Already prepped for an attack, your muscle tension increased.
Crush her. That's an order.
Yarnaby growled, and you stood still. Muscles strained. Breath calm and measured. Your spear firm in your grasp, its metal tip glistening in the faint light of the prison complex's lamps. Across from you, Yarnaby prowled left to right, sizing you up. His shiny plastic face locked onto you, muscles stiff beneath the plushy hide. Then, without warning, Yarnaby exploded with violent intent forward. You braced yourself, angling the tip of the spear forward, aiming for the Rainbow Lion's chest. Yarnaby lunged, twisting in the air mid-jump, swiping his massive paw. The spear's edge barely raking across the giant's hips, drawing blood as you attempted to dodge. But just as the blade was about to slide out of Yarnaby, the pressure against the spear became too much. It bent and then broke. As the force staggered you down on the ground, air pressed out of your lungs. You couldn't move for a moment. Meanwhile, Yarnaby became enraged, barely feeling the pain from his torn flesh and pelt. Not stopping, the lion crawled forward, jaws snapping, and you barely managed to roll away from his mighty stomp. Exhausted, you went on your feet. Reaching for your belt, you drew your second tool of death, a shank made out of a broken, sharpened piece of piping and some duct tape. The beast's muscles rippled. This time you met Yarnaby head-on, sidestepping him in the last moment, driving the shank deep into Yarnaby's flank. He bellowed in pain, but twisted his front legs and managed to rake his brutal claws across your chest. You screamed as your plastic and flesh was torn, the force alone sending you onto the floor. You gritted your teeth, rolling away just as Yarnaby poised for a new attack, claws carving into the concrete floor. Scrambling on your feet, you barely managed to lift the shank before the Rainbow Lion leaped into the air again. The impact was brutal, and you broke a few bones as your back connected with the floor. It would have killed you if you weren't a toy. Snarling, screaming, Yarnaby stomped onto your chest, his weight crushing you, while his jaws snapped and barked at your face. You couldn't move. And then... snap! Yarnaby's jaws clasped around your left shoulder, and with a mighty pull you watched as your arm was torn from your body. But you still had the knife in the other hand. With the light in your eyes fading quickly, you stabbed Yarnaby's throat. Not deep, but just enough that the lion required immediate medical attention. A fountain of blood sprayed onto your face, and that was the last image you saw before your own blood loss made you pass out. And you're saying if I sign this, I become a toy? A female voice said skeptically. Like full on, not just some girl in a suit?
Yes, you would be part of our most luxurious doll line ever created. You would be an icon. Everybody would adore you.
The woman's gaze returned to the contract. What if I don't sign it?
Then you will be returned to the office with an NDA and your career reaches a permanent dead end, Miss Delilah.
This is a one-time chance. The woman gulped. A luxury doll, you say? Can I at least choose which one?
Of course, Miss Delilah. Don't worry about that. Everything will be fine.
Okay then. I trust you, Doctor. You jolted awake from the memory, its after images already fading in your brain. Your chest hurt. In fact, your entire body hurt. You could barely breathe. With a haunted expression, you looked around the room. It was a quarter cell. A more pleasant variant of the regular toy holding cells. This one had a bed and a desk with a chair, and a clock that had stopped at 6:40 in the morning or evening. Didn't matter anymore, really. You didn't know why or how you were alive, but the fact you were captured meant the worst. Dumbfounded, you raised your left arm. It had returned to you. But it wasn't in a way you expected. It looked skeletal and grey. It was quite hard. It clicked with every movement and you couldn't quite feel the tips of your fingers. It reacted like a regular arm. With a finger from your right, you brushed over it. Metal. It was vibrating and was a little warm. Your eyes narrowed and you went against your better judgment, immediately rolling out of bed. Realizing you were naked, you ripped the cloth off the dirty pillow and quickly fashioned a loincloth and a primitive bra. Using your new arm, you broke off one of the desk's legs. It was much stronger than the old one. Impressed, you nodded. Yeah, you can work with this. Not having a hammer or a rock to beat the metal leg into shape, you instead used the weight of the metal bed frame to press a very primitive handle into your new club. It felt terrible in your hand, even after using your leftover cloth rags to make a soft handle. But it was better than nothing. The doctor, meanwhile, had carefully watched every move you made the moment you had awoken. He was curious. Tearing apart one of his own very limited automatons to risk a life-saving surgery on you wasn't a decision he made lightly. But seeing you armed with a functional weapon in less than an hour after waking from such terrible damage, that was impressive. But why did Dr. Sawyer choose to save your life? It was the lion. Your little neck stab barely did any damage, just able to penetrate the fluff of his skin. The blood was really the only thing that was a problem here. It was quite the nasty wound, but easy to fix. But this is what the lion did after you stopped moving. Yarnaby nudged you. Dr. Sawyer was convinced the moment you were vulnerable, he'd rip you apart and devour you, but no. Yarnaby made the most adorable little whimper, nudging what seemed to be a corpse, before himself falling over to the side. He himself now slowly succumbing to his wounds. But the doctor had seen enough. Your mutual destruction was mesmerizingly beautiful to him, and so he retrieved both of your bodies to fix them. You got a new arm and had your wounds fixed, Yarnaby stitched up again, both of you needing blood transfusions as well, wasting a lot of plasma. Alright. Let's see what happens when I press this button, the doctor mumbled to himself. The automaton poised behind the door to your cell awoke, and with a loud alarm sound, it pressed the button, opening the door, slowly. Scared, you pushed as far as you could into the corner of the room, readying your club. Meanwhile, opposite to your cell, another one opened, revealing Yarnaby's very own holding cell. The lion was prancing from left to right restlessly. His eyes were focused immediately on you. He recognized you, of course. After a minute passed, he approached. Slowly, head low, tail swooshing left to right. Your muscles tensed, but then you coughed, falling forward on your knees. The pain in your chest was too much, yet moved too much. Maybe you should have lied in bed longer. Grunting, clenching your teeth, you rubbed over the melted plastic scars in your chest. By the time you finished coughing, a shadow loomed above you. With a haunted expression, you stared up at Yarnaby, who was inspecting your face. A noise came from him, a mix of a growl, a purr, and sniffing. Slowly he lowered his head. His vertical jaws opened, revealing the pulsating wet red of his mouth. There was a little tentacle-like flesh tube in the middle. Just like the mask that was his face, it too was lined with smaller teeth. It was his real mouth. The way his Venus flytrap-esque mouth functioned was that meat was beaten into the shell of the face before the second mouth then slowly devoured it. His second pair of lips were twisted to the side into a sort of half-moon. It was quite hard to tell if it was a smile or a frown. And then quickly, like a snake, the second mouth shot forward, stopping just before your eyes. You could feel air move around your face. He was still inhaling your scent. The tension could be cut with a knife. And then, smooch. The strange appendage shot forward, kissing your cheek. It was warm and wet, and feeling like being kissed by a leather sponge fresh out of the bucket. The inside of the beast's mouth reeked of the medicinal slop he was being fed when he wasn't feasting on critters. Finally, you dropped your weapon, and for a moment Yarnaby twitched, suppressing the instinct to chomp down on you. Your head turned a little, staying right at the void inside his second mouth. It was dripping with salvia. You hesitated. Your lips quivered as they slowly parted, pressing against Yarnaby's tiny mouth. Or more tiny due to size differences. To you it was just right. After the first tender touch of your soft lips against his, you closed your eyes, and your right hand was slowly going higher, until you reached up, your hand grasping his flesh tube. Not tight, but keeping it in place. You could hear his massive body awaken with excitement as he purred loudly. Feel the reverberation in your brain as he was purring loudly. He was a good kitty. Your hand stroked over his red flesh, and Yarnaby could taste every inch of you inside his mouth. It overwhelmed him. He had tasted flesh before, but of course he had eaten flesh before, but usually that flesh was dead and had stopped moving. This touch on his sensitive skin was new to the beast. By now his salvia output had your head thoroughly drenched in faintly metallic-smelling slime, making your body slippery and gooey, your long hair sticking to your back. Slowly you pulled out of his maw as he stood there breathing heavily. Dripping from his liquids, you saw him cower down, tail excitedly waving from left to right, his butt wiggling a little. When you bit your lower lip, pulling at the knot holding the cloth in your chest together, dropping it to the side with a wet slap. Hey, thank you for watching the video until the very end. If you managed to get this far, leave a comment with the word pickles below as our little secret. But before I say goodbye, I'd like to shout out all of my lovely high-tier channel members, aka darling stewards, for keeping me and this channel alive. We have Jaws, Melofia, Nicole Hatcher, Maxicat, Alison Watkins, Bella Mare, Mystic Jade 111, Giovanna Moretti, Twilight Mia, Angry Boxman, Hella, Anonymous Weep, and Nicodemus D. And lastly, I'd like to mention all my other supporters for being awesome, and thank you. I'm eternally grateful for all of your donations. Thank you and goodbye.